people who will have opinions in the room. For example, Jackie will definitely want to comment on some people's stories, I'm sure. Can you see Jackie?
Hello.
Hello.
Are you in Scotland, Jackie?
I am, yes.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you, Sika?
I'm good, Jackie. What about you?
Good. I'm looking forward to this very much.
Thank you for joining and motivating our students, Jackie.
It's
good to see you.
Pleasure.
And I just want to let everybody know that my eldest sister, Jan, is also in the room, my sister.
Oh, wow.
And my sister is also a wonderful storyteller.
Hello, Jan. Hello, Jan. Hi. I'm also David's sister.
Hello.
Yes. Sika is my Nepali sister.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Jan.
My sister too, then.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Good to see you.
And you.
Okay. I'm just waiting for my other computer for Ali to let me in. And then can you hear me on this okay?
Yeah, yes, sir, we can.
Oh, this is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
My wife is waiting to get into the room.
I mean.
Okay.
David.
Yes, Sika.
There might be our parents, teachers also will be joining.
Very welcome.
So, okay.
People can continue to join whenever they want to.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready? Is everyone ready? Ladies and gentlemen, and assembled company, wherever you are in this world and whatever time zone you are in, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And tonight, or today, or this morning, or this afternoon, we are incredibly pleased to have a special broadcast from Nepal by the Young Storytellers of Nepal. And I'm going to pass over to David Heathfield to introduce the program, who will undoubtedly pass the responsibility on to someone else during the time. David, over to you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you to the World Storytelling Cafe for hosting this event. I was invited by Ulan's school in Nepal to be a guest storyteller at their annual storytelling event. This year, the event was online, so I was able to join in, and it was fantastic. I heard stories from these young people who had learned stories from their families, from their communities around Nepal, and they brought them together in their festival. And now thanks to the World Storytelling Cafe and thanks to Ulan School, they're going to present their stories to the world here live in the Zoom room, live on Facebook, and it's going to be recorded so people around the world can hear your stories, which is absolutely brilliant. I met Sika Gurung, their teacher at Ulan School, a couple of years ago at a conference, and we've collaborated and written together since then. And let me hand over to Sika Gurung, marvelous and creative teacher. So Sika, would you like to introduce your students a little bit?
Yes, David, definitely. Namaste, everyone. I'm Shika Gurung. I'm an English language arts teacher at Ulan School, Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm extremely delighted. I'm so happy. I'm super excited to be. Thank you a lot to World Storytelling Cafe. It's so good to meet John in person. I've heard a lot about you. It's so good to see other people, my friends in David's storytelling course. And yes, I'm happy to bring my students, my dear students, to you with their stories. Please enjoy. Thank you, David.
So over to Suchit and Ryan. Thank you, Sika. Over to Suchit and Ryan. And I'm sure there's going to be space for people who are coming in from Spain. There's Sarah from Spain. I can see Norman, who I think is in Canada. And more people from Megan. Where are you?
Oh, sorry. We're in Scotland.
In Scotland as well. Fantastic. And also Jackie in Scotland, and my sister Jan, who's in Bristol, and my wife Tammy, who's in the next room. So over to you, Suchit and Ryan.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Namaste, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to the World Storytelling Festival. And I'd like to apologize for the short delay that we had during our Facebook live stream. We were like about 5 minutes late, I believe. So I'd like to apologize for that. But other than that, it's a real honor to be here. So now I'll introduce myself. So I'm Ryan, and he's nervous.
Hi, namaste. My name is Suchit, and I'm also nervous because this is a really big platform and it's my first time here, and I'm the MC of this program, and so is Ryan, isn't it, Ryan? It's okay.
I'm so sorry for messing up your names, Suchit. Please don't hurt me. I'm so sorry. So let's keep it professional. Anyways, where was I? Yes, we are high schoolers of Yulin School, which is one of the many schools in Nepal. Yulin School just did an online storytelling festival very recently. It was a huge success thanks to our amazing guest speakers that we had all over the world, who were from all over the world. Amongst those guest speakers, there was Mr. David Heatfield, who took a chance on us, and that's the reason why we are blessed with this opportunity to speak in such a huge platform and tell our stories to the world. So I'd like to thank Mr. David Heatfield for that opportunity. So that's the story of how we got here. So I guess without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first storyteller, Raksha, with her story, how the Yetis killed themselves.
Thank you very much. Namaste, everyone. So, the title of my story is How the Yetis Killed Themselves. But first, I want to tell everybody a little bit about the Yetis. We all know that Yetis are these huge snow creatures, right? They live in these myths that they hunt people, that they're scary and they're huge. But what most people don't know is that these Yetis, they're also incredibly lonely creatures. So with that much in mind, I want to move on with the story. This story is about a fool, and it's about a village that fool belongs to, and about, of course, these Yetis. So, but also this village, they live on this one unwritten rule. The rule is that when you see a Yeti, you run. That is because, well, of course, they're terrifying creatures, but what you do is that when you see a Yeti, you run like a headless chicken because your life depends on it. All right, you run. But like I mentioned, our story has this ignorant fool. Her name's Nara. Nara, unlike any other of the village children, decides to hunt down these Yetis. Everyone in that village, everyone residing in this mountain area in that village, they all have practically grown up with stories about these Yetis, about how scary they are. But for Nara, she wanted to know why. She knew that these Yetis, they're monsters, but she thought they're just like us. Humankind, we're also monsters. We call these Yetis monsters because they're a bit stronger than us and a bit bigger than us, and they overpower us and they can hurt us. But we're the same. We humans, we can overpower a lot of other creatures. We can hurt so many creatures, and we have hurt so many creatures. It makes us the same as them. Why should I be afraid? Is what she'd think. She wanted answers because these Yetis, stories about them hurting people are only stories. There is no evidence that they have actually hurt someone. So she wanted to go on a journey to find out why. She never finds any answers, of course, but instead the Yetis find her. They follow her. They notice that they are being tracked, but instead of hiding themselves, instead of running away, these Yetis followed her. They followed her to her village, and in her village, not one Yeti, not two, like an entire pack of Yetis were in that village. But strangely, they didn't attack. They didn't do nothing. All they did was sit down and stare. They stared at these humans all day, all night. They would just stand straight and stare. It really creeped up the villagers, of course. But of all things, the villagers decided to overlook this because they knew that there are so many of these creatures. They're all so huge, and they can overpower us so easily. They can hurt us. We can't do anything. They're just scaring us. So what's the harm? We decided that it's fine. I guess we can overlook this. I can just move on with our lives. They're just there. They're just looking. Let's pretend they don't exist. Is what the Mukhya of the village said. Mukhya is the leader. It's a Nepali word. And then things got worse. And that is because Nara, our fool, she approached the Yetis. And not only did she approach the Yetis, she offered all of them food. She told them to sit. The Yetis obediently did as she said. And after that, right after she did that, the next day, the Yetis decided to help out the people. Now, helping out people for Yetis weren't exactly helping out. It was being more destructive. They tried to very innocently help out these people. They wanted to assist them in their agriculture. They wanted to assist them in work, in lifting, and everything else. But all they ever did was bring more destruction in the village. So the villagers, they gathered around. The village mukhya, he decided to talk this out. And then he calmed everybody out and he said, we cannot fight them. They aren't harming us. They haven't done anything wrong to us. Calm down, is what he would tell everybody. But then during that meeting, a fight started. A fight broke out. One of the villagers said, the Yetis would have never come down if Narayan didn't go looking for them. She is the reason these Yetis are here. She approached them. It is because of her. She is a monster. She is just like these Yetis. We need to get rid of her. Everybody, not everybody, but most of the popularity, they ganged up on Nara. They decided to go on a witch hunt. Nara ran. She ran. She ran towards towards the Yetis, seeking for help. But she was unsuccessful. The villagers got to her first, and well, they killed her. They burnt her alive. And I guess curiosity did kill the cat. She died because she was too curious. And then later on, things got even weirder. The Yetis started imitating the villagers. You know, the villagers, their daily activities would be carrying out weight and assisting each other for work and growing crops and everything else. And the Yetis would imitate them. Every little action of theirs, the Yetis would imitate it. The villagers felt watched and creeped out, of course. But what's worse is that they felt like lab rats, like test subjects that were being watched and observed for some sort of a plot that these Yetis were planning on them. Like they were these people were part of like guinea pigs, like lab rats, part of this huge experiment that these Yetis were after. So they wanted to fight back, but they didn't really want to fight a blood war. They wanted to outsmart these Yetis. They did in a way. Of course, the Mukhya didn't allow this. It was too dangerous. It was too rash. But still, a vast majority gathered. What they all did was at night, they knew that the Yetis would watch them and they knew that the Yetis would imitate them. So what they did was they all gathered a lot of glasses and they filled it with chang. Chang is beer, and they mixed it with red wine. And then they drank it and they prepared these tiny wooden swords and they placed it everywhere. And after drinking, they would obviously get a bit tipsy. So after drinking, what they did was they started attacking each other. They would stab each other. And wow, they stabbed each other for a really long time. It looked like they had killed each other. And they knew that the Yetis were watching them. The Yetis were a bit far away, but they were still watching them. And they knew that the Yetis would try to imitate them. They knew all of that. So the next night, they placed the chang, mixed it with red wine next to real sharp swords. They placed it there together. And then when night came, the Yetis drank, they got tipsy, and they started attacking each other, stabbing each other, and killing each other. And an entire clan of Yetis was wiped out all at once at night. The entire Yeti clan was gone. And their death. The humans there had blood on their hands. Humans that claimed to have acted out on self-defense had the blood on all of these Yetis that meant no harm to them and only sought comfort and a bit of knowledge and a bit more of curiosity about human nature and wanted to coexist. But then again, guess what? The human nature, that instinct in them rose to act in a way of self-defense that they claimed to be to protect themselves. Killed so many lives, blood on all these humans. And well, that's all. The story ends with humans that have blood on their hands, that have claimed to have all these blood in their hands as an act of self-defense. That is how the story ends. Thank you very much for listening. That's all.
Yes, a round of applause for Raksha, please. Yes. So if anyone would like to comment on the story or ask Raksha any questions, please do so. Feel free to do so.
I really like the story, but I also found this really interesting that we humans have this nature of fearing things that we don't understand or know. And we also have this nature of killing each other, which may also cause our extinction of our species. So I think that's something that we got to learn from this story, and I really like the story a lot.
Yeah, I thought you did it really well. You told the story brilliantly. Well done.
Thank you.
Raksha, is not a traditional story, Raksha. It's got a very modern message, hasn't it?
Yes, it is an old story, but I kind of rewrote parts of it because I wanted it to be a bit more interesting and a bit more, I wanted to add a bit of my own touch to it. So I decided to rewrite a few parts of it, add a bit more story to it.
Well, great job. Well done.
Yeah, really good.
People can also comment in the chat if you want to.
Now that I think that everyone has commented and told their opinions, I would like to continue this program and call our next storyteller, Prakriti, who is going to tell a story called The Fruit of Our Deeds. Prakriti?
Thank you very much. Hello, namaste, everyone. I'm Prakriti, and I'm honored to be storytelling in this auspicious event. So the title of my story is The Fruit of Our Deeds. And my story starts from the main character, Gopal. So he is casually strolling around the park. It was a normal day, and he was feeling pretty happy when all of a sudden he heard this massive throbbing sound of someone's footsteps. It was not normal. It was so peculiar that he was too frightened to even turn back. So he kept walking. But as he walked, faster and faster and faster, the footsteps kept approaching him. He had to turn around. He turned around only to witness what it seemed to be like a creature, taller than the tallest mountains, bigger than the biggest rocks, and so fierce. Oh God, so fierce that one single glance could make you pass out. He fell to the floor and was helpless as he let the demon pick him up. The demon picked him up with his gigantic hand and his foot-long nails that kept pricking every inch of his body. And then he was brutally smashed to a big pile. For a second, he thought he broke his arm, but he had not a second to spare, not a single minute to waste. He had to hurry. He had to run to save his life. So he hurried down the pile. And then on his way, he noticed that it was not a regular pile. It was a stack full of snakes and serpents of all sizes. It was wrapped all around his body. He had snakes all over him and then venom drooping all over him. He had to lash it off his body, and it was such a traumatic experience. But still, he bravely battled through the snakes, through the pile, and he went past it all. And he took a deep breath. He really thought that it was over, but oh, little did he know it was not. Some ferocious-looking men came over with daggers and bats and swords, all kind of weapons, you name it, they had it. They came over and they started beating Gopal up with it. Gopal begged and begged. He cried and cried. He begged for mercy, but they had no pity at all. They ruthlessly kept beating him and torturing him. They just had this one intention to really torture him. He was so in pain, so much in pain. He was so hurt that he gave up on life. He had no faith on life. And then he was made to stand across this white cliff with several others. And then he looked down the cliff. He realized that the cliff was so high, it was at such an extreme height that if you look down from there, you cannot even see the surface of the earth. It was that high. One push from there, down you go, you're dropped dead. Like your whole body is smashed into nothing but dust. And exactly that happened. He was pushed from behind and down he went. He summoned for death. Maybe simple death would have been much more easier than to experience such immense pain. Gopal just wanted to die at that moment. And they say that your life flashes back in front of your eyes at your last moment. That exactly happened to Gopal. His life flashed back in front of his eyes. All those memories in his life were gushing around. And then he had this feeling of guilt. He was guilty somehow, but he could not tell why he was guilty. So he kept all his attention on that matter. He focused a little more. And then he realized that recently him and his friends were involved in theft. They were stealing around others' properties. And simultaneously, he also insulted his parents and he hurt his parents who probably dedicated their whole life for their child. And then along with that, he also abused a little puppy just for fun and jokes, that little creature that has nothing against him. And all the series of unfortunate events that took place was the punishment of what he had done. He regretted whatever he did, and he was so sad, he was so sorry, he was so sick of himself. And he apologized to himself from within. And he remembered every single person who he ever hurt, willingly or unwillingly, and apologized to them. And guess what happened? Well, I'll tell it. He woke up. He woke up. It was just a dream. It was a dream, but it was not merely just a nightmare where one faces their biggest fears. It was a dream, but with real emotions and real pain. That incident struck him all the bad things he had ever did, all the bad deeds he ever committed. And it made him realize how our deeds affect us, even in our afterlife, even when we live. And then he promised himself to never hurt anyone, to always be selflessly generous and help others. And then he remembered the Garud Puran. So in our Hindu mythology, there is a Hindu scripture called the Garud Puran. It is a holy scripture that consists of 28 death sentences, 28 capital punishments after your death. So if you commit good deeds, you'll of course go to heaven and stay in peace. But if you commit bad deeds, you will go to hell and you'll have to face all of that, what Gopal faced, like abusing animals, disrespecting elders, theft. All of those are part of the Garud Puran. And he recalled all of that. And then he realized how important karma is. What goes around comes back around. And whatever you do, you'll have to pay for your deeds, one way or another. And then whatever you face in your life affects your afterlife too. And whatever you face in your lifetime is nothing but just the fruit of our deeds. Thank you.
Oh wow, that was a really nice story. Like, the best part about the story was that the nightmare. I think that nightmare is really similar to something that we have all experienced once in our life. I think it's similar to guilt. The things that we do make us feel guilty afterwards, and I really thought that it was similar to that. That's why I could relate a lot. And now I would like to ask the audience if they have anything to comment or anything to say about the story.
I thought it's really well told again. Well done. Very impressive.
It's been a fantastic telling, and I think I'd better be a bit more careful about my deeds in future.
You've got a second chance. You've got a second chance, John.
Yeah, but I better get it in quickly.
No, I think you're right, John. With a telling like that, we all need to take stock of what we've been doing and mend our ways, definitely. Well done, Prakriti. That's great.
Yes, thank you, Prakriti.
Thank you.
I have a question for Suchit and Ryan. I want to ask you, could you just tell us in a couple of minutes what the situation is now in Nepal regarding the pandemic? Are you going to school or are you in lockdown? What's the situation?
Well, in Nepal, there are it's a pretty divided situation. Like half of the schools, most of the public schools, they are open and there are students going to school, and most of the private schools, they are having online classes because they have more resources. They tend to have more resources. And then the situation though, there are like a bunch of cases, but there hasn't been enough testing. So it's estimated that the number that's been given out by the government, that's been displayed by the government, is not accurate, and the real numbers are like 3 times the current numbers that are being displayed.
And is the rate of infection increasing or decreasing now?
It's still increasing. Yeah, it's still increasing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And we can't even tell if it's increasing and decreasing because the calculation is not even really accurate. So it's very hard to tell.
Government only tests it in urban cities. It doesn't really test a lot of people in the rural areas, mostly because of the lack of education, and people refuse to get tested, and the government doesn't have enough resources to test people.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for telling us.
Yes.
So let's go on with the stories.
Yes. Hopefully the next story will cheer us up a little bit. It probably won't, but it's worth a shot. So next up we have the duo of Ashra and Abhisharika, and they will be telling the story, The Power of Calmness. Yeah, this will probably cheer us up. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Namaste everyone. Hi, I'm Ashra Madhya.
Namaste, I'm Abhisharika, and the title of the story is The Power of Calmness.
So today we have prepared this short story which is based upon one of Lord Buddha's life events. If anyone of you here aren't familiar with Buddha, he is recognized as the founder of the indigenous religion. One of the most significant things he has attained during his lifetime was that he was able to excel karma and escape the cycle of birth and rebirth. Till today, he is well respected and honored for his good teachings and is recognized universally as a great philosopher, spiritual teacher, and religious leader. For sure, his life's events has been a motivation to many people, and his splendid behavior, morals, has inspired and empowered many individuals to become good human beings. So considering all these, we have decided to share this incredible story with you guys. Hope you guys enjoy it.
So Buddha was traveling on a humid day with his followers from a village. Everyone was happy and excited to see him. They enjoyed hearing his speeches with lots of enthusiasm and adored him.
Just like any other day, Buddha continued his daily ritual. He started meditating with his fellow followers under this big, gigantic tree. In between those deep woods, they loved hearing the birds chirping and enjoyed the melody of nature. They were meditating peacefully until this angry man came by and started shouting and arguing with Buddha.
That man believed Buddha to be a fake master fooling the masses. While Buddha was delivering his speech, the man stood up and started shouting in a very rude way. The angry man: You have got no rights to teach others. You're stupid, you're fake, and your teaching is senseless. You just waste other people's times and nothing else.
After verbally abusing him, the man stood there. He waited for Buddha's response or even a reaction. But to his surprise, Buddha remained calm. There wasn't even the slightest change in Buddha's expression.
The man's anger increased and he used more abusive words to insult Buddha. The crowd began to respond to the biting behavior of this young man.
Okay, my friends. That's his own conception about me, and I have no problem with that. Stay calm and always remember that it is not always necessary to confront aggression with aggression.
Even so, the man didn't receive any reaction or response from Buddha. This took a few hours. In the end, the man got tired. Then the angry man said, I mistreated you, I insulted you, but you're not angry?
No, child, I'm not. I'm unaffected by your behavior. This is because I didn't let it pass within me. I simply didn't accept it.
The man, but you heard me, right? Then how weren't you affected? How is it even possible?
Sure, I did. But abuse. So why should I listen to it? Why should I let it bother me? Now, let me tell you something. Come here, child.
The man came closer towards Buddha and sat beside him.
Tell me, if you bought this beautiful gift for someone, but that person did not accept it, then with whom does the gift belong to?
I suppose the gift would still be mine because I was the one who bought it.
Exactly. Like this. Just a few moments you came here and started throwing these insulting words. You cursed me and you got mad at me. But if I don't accept those curses, if I don't start arguing back, then all those curses will fall upon you only, same as a gift returning to its owner. Okay, so suppose you give someone coins, person doesn't accept the coins, then with whom will those coins remain with?
The man replied, well, if a person doesn't accept those coins, obviously the coins would remain with me.
Yes, indeed. Same happened with abuse. When you came here and started shouting at me, I simply didn't accept it, not even a single one. Then all those abuses never got within me. It remained with you itself. So I have no reason to be angry with you. The man stood there stunned. He was shocked. He slowly understood the message Buddha was trying to deliver. Inside of him, he had this himself. He felt very embarrassed. So he put his hands together and slowly bowed down towards Buddha as a sign of apology.
Angry man, I'm sorry, Buddha, forgive me. I've finally understood and learned the lesson. It was an acknowledgement that this man had learned a valuable lesson that day. He learned to remain calm, not to bother other individuals with their work and respect each one's doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so
Wow.
would
Wonderful.
anyone like to comment?
Fantastic tandem storytelling. I love the way you took turns to tell that story, and it was very powerful teaching.
Yeah, and I think that if everyone could like know this simple but really important moral and imply it in their lives, then I think that most of the conflict will end before it even starts. Like wars, battles, they are all like they all become useless because most of them start from a small verbal abuse and then end up really bad. So that was my opinion on this story, and I really love the story.
Okay, moving on. Next up, we have Samton with his story, Shravan Kumar. The story of Shravan Kumar, sorry, yeah.
Hello everyone. Today I will be telling the story of Shravan Kumar. The story of Shravan Kumar is a story from the Ramayana, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of Hindu mythology. Now, in this story, Shravan Kumar is a man who lived long ago during the time of the Ramayana. He was very unfortunate since both of his parents were blind, but even and so he was very eager to do all the household chores throughout the day as his parents were unable to see. Now, since Shravan Kumar desired to fulfill every wish of his parents, one day his parents asked him to take them on a pilgrimage. He did this and he took them on a balance-like device since they couldn't see where they were walking. Now, while on this pilgrimage, they avoided food offered by anyone else except Shravan. Soon, during the pilgrimage, they reached a forest near Ayodhya. The king of Ayodhya was King Dashrath, and he was a very skilled hunter. He could he could spot his prey from miles away just by hearing the sound of the prey. Now, near the forest of Ayodhya, Shravan's parents told him they were thirsty and to go get some water from the river. Shravan left his parents in the forest and went to the river to get water for them. Now, in the river, when Shravan was getting water, the king Dashrath was also hunting nearby. The king mistook the sound of Shravan collecting the water for a deer drinking water. Now, the king shot his arrow through the air and it pierced Shravan's chest. Shravan cried in pain and, and he fell. The king, realizing the mistake he had just made, ran over to where he shot the arrow and found Shravan Kumar. The king apologized to Shravan Kumar, and Shravan Kumar told the king to calm down and inform his parents of what had happened. The king Dashrath went to find Shravan's parents and told them about the tragedy that had just occurred. The parents were devastated, and they followed the king Dashrath to the spot where their son died. Their son died Shravan died in his parents' arms, and with his last breath, he told his parents that he would wait in heaven to serve them once more. The parents soon after perished at the same riverside, but before they perished, they cursed the king Dashrath they cursed the king Dashrath and to death. Thank you.
Wow, that was a really nice story. And actually, this is one of the most famous stories around Nepal. And like this story is like brings back a lot of memories from my childhood because when I used to be a naughty kid, like parents used to give the example of Shravan Kumar as how a child should be and how they should respect their parents. And yeah, it was really embarrassing memories. And it was really nice to hear that story again. And I would like to ask any guest if they have any opinions or questions or anything they want to say.
It makes me think that one must be very careful where one shoots an arrow. You don't know where it lands.
Yes, yeah, that was one of the mistakes that the king made, and he regretted it a lot afterwards.
So the story showed that very well. Thank you.
I am thinking I would like you to tell my son that story sometime. I think that would be a very good story for my son to hear.
Yes, Jackie. Here in Nepal, every good son or good child is compared to Shravan Kumar. So he is the ideal from the mythology.
Yes, I could tell. Thank you for sharing that story with us sometime.
Yeah, but this story also causes a lot of, it causes us to have an inferiority complex because of what Shravan did. What he did, none of us can do what he did. Basically, it's
Yes,
something.
I agree with Ryan a lot.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, Ryan. Maybe as mothers, we always want our sons to be perfect, which is maybe not very fair. I'm sure you are all doing a good job as sons.
Yes, thank you.
I will not do that. Do with that.
So I think we should move on to our next storytellers. They are also a duo, I believe. Shreya and Anushka, The Attitude of Gratitude.
Namaste and thank you for having us today. So actually the title of our story is The King's Precious Stones. I'm Anushka and
I'm Shreya.
Thank you for listening to us. Once upon a time in the far western Nepal, there lived a king. He was very rich. He ate off of silver plates and drank from silver cups. He lived in a beautiful palace. When he was bored, he would go down to his treasury, where he kept all his precious jewels and rubies. There he would lie amongst the mountains and mountains of jewels and play with them as if they were grains of sand. The king felt so happy that he was the richest man in Nepal. He often would tell himself, "Ha, maybe I am the richest man in Nepal."
Then one day a sage came to the king's palace. Everyone had heard about the sage. Everyone said that he was a very wise man. The king wanted to receive the sage's blessing and advice, so he invited the sage to stay at his palace for a few days, and the sage accepted.
They took their evening meal together. Then the king paid the sage the greatest honor, and he asked him, "Would you like to see my treasury? It's full of precious rubies and diamonds." He had never shown anyone his precious diamonds and rubies. He thought that this was the greatest honor the sage had ever received.
The king led the way to the treasury. He was very excited. He had never before shown his treasures to anyone else. He was sure that the sage would be impressed. Maybe in return, the sage would give the king some good advice. He might advise him on how to govern the kingdom. The king slowly opened the door to the treasury and revealed his riches. He turned to see the sage's reaction to all the piles of rubies, diamonds, and sapphires. The sage looked around the room quickly and said, sharply, "Is this it?"
The king was surprised. "Yes," the king replied. "Are you not amazed to see the mountains and piles of rubies and diamonds in front of your eyes? They're all mine." The king swelled with pride.
The sage laughed. "Sorry, but I know a far more precious than yours. These stones are nothing compared to those precious stones."
The king became a little curious and very angry. Who could have seen more stones precious than this? It was unthinkable. He could not believe that the sage was not impressed by his mountains and mountains of precious jewels and diamonds.
"So where are those precious stones you speak of?" He asked the sage. He was secretly annoyed. He didn't like to think of a man who was richer than himself.
"I will show you tomorrow morning," said the sage with a smile. "It's time for us to go to bed now." That night, he could not think. He tossed and turned and had wondered how could anyone have seen more precious stones than this. He wished to see the stones that the sage had spoken of. So the night seemed long, but at last morning came, and the sage woke up.
"Quick," said the king. "It's time to see these precious stones. Get dressed quickly." The sage laughed. He was surprised to see how anxious the king had become ever since the hearing of other precious stones. He led the king out of the fine palace. They walked down a small lane to a village. The king became more and more puzzled. How could they find such treasure in a poor little village? They went past a woman grinding corn. The sage stopped. Then he whispered to the king, "Look, there's the stone. Look at the stone she's grinding corn with."
The king looked and laughed. "What's so special about that stone?" he mocked. The sage stared and repeated, "What could be more precious than this?" The king laughed again. "But there are hundreds and thousands of stones just like this. It's an ordinary grinding stone." He laughed again to think of the sage's stupidity. He did not know the difference between humongous jewels and a grinding stone. No wonder the sage was not surprised and impressed when he showed his treasure.
The king was about to walk away, but the sage called him back. Come back and look at this stone carefully. Then you will see what I mean. Yes, you're right. There are hundreds and thousands of these grinding stones, but they all have far more value than your precious stones. This stone gives the woman flour for her meal. It is giving her food. What use are your precious stones?
The king thought deeply. Then he realized that he could not do anything with his precious stones and only could think to himself how rich he was. The sage guessed the thoughts and said, "Now you understand. You see, your precious stones have no value at all, whereas the grinding stone is the most precious stone around here.
Without it, the woman cannot grind her grain. She does not get her bread, and surely this one stone has more value than your treasure full of jewels."
The king listened to the sage's wise word. When he came back to his beautiful and enormous palace, he was far more richer in wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so any comments?
Well, I think we're getting so much life advice tonight. Oh, today it's just incredible. I think we all need to go away and rethink ourselves, reinvent. It's great to be taught by young people. The idea of old sages is probably wrong. I think it's the youth that have the wisdom.
Nice. Isn't it almost Christmas? Isn't it almost Christmas now? Isn't it almost Christmas? Right. Yeah.
It is. Ryan,
Yeah.
David earlier was asking, David on his iPhone, he was asking how long you have been storytelling. He would like to know how long the storytellers have been telling tales.
Everyone has done it from, as far as I know, it's our second time, and we've done some rehearsals between.
Yeah, we are the new people who got introduced to the storytelling program, while our seniors have been doing it a lot. And Shika ma'am introduced us and encouraged us to come and do the storytelling, and we started to doing it and like enjoying it. So everyone has different like experiences.
Yes.
Jackie, we started a storytelling festival. I started a storytelling festival in our school, Yulin, since 2018. After I came back from ITFL, Brighton, where I had attended David's storytelling event. I was also the one who told the story. I think it was at last, right, David? So yeah, so from there I came back. I was so impressed. I was so excited to try it on my students, and then it was a good one. So this time we did a virtual one. So next time I can call you also as a guest.
Thank you.
That's brilliant, Sika. And I suppose the question would be now, where have the students learned the stories from? So I hear a lot of them are coming from mythology, from Hinduism, from Buddhism. Are they stories that you've learned in your families, in your schooling, from your grandparents? Where are you learning your stories from? I'm asking that to the students. Maybe Ryan and Suchit could answer.
It's different for everyone. Some of us, we've learned all of these stories when we were little kids, and there's some of us who are just learning about these stories right now when we were searching for some stories that we could tell.
Yeah, and as everyone knows, Nepal is a really a rich country in culture. So there are a lot of different cultures and stories which are like the origin of all the different kind of stories that we get. So of them, and like most of them are passed on from our generations to generations. So it's basically most of them are religious and have like life meaning type of stories more than the entertaining ones.
Thank you very much. Thank you for telling us that.
Now that I think that everyone has like spoken about the story, I think now I'll call the next storyteller, Ananya, who's going to tell the story called The Monkey God.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Ananya Yaktuma, and it's an honor to be here with everyone. So today the story that I'm going to be telling is called The Monkey God, and it comes from the Limbu people of eastern Nepal. So let me begin. So once upon a time, Hang Samthewa, otherwise known as Lord Shiva, wanted to test the human beings on earth. Since he was living in the Himalayas, he summoned Bandar Devata, otherwise known as Monkey God. When he appeared before Hang Samthewa, the monkey god asked him, "Why have you summoned me?" The monkey god then began to listen as he spoke. So Hang Samthewa said, "I want you to go down to earth and check how the people are doing and report it to me." After hearing this, the monkey god agreed, and then he went down to earth and began his journey. On his journey, he met a man called Hang Mukhang, who was a limbu of the village of Angbang. The man told the monkey god, "Please come and visit my house one of these days." So after a few days, the monkey god went to Hang Samthewa's house, but the man failed to recognize him. The monkey god then entered the garden and he ate all the fruits. After seeing this, the man threw stones and chased the monkey god away. The monkey god then entered the house and he drank Nihangmati. Nihangmati is a liquor that's made for special purposes in the Limbu community. After finding out that his precious liquor was gone, the man was enraged. So he decided to lay out a trap for the monkey god. The monkey god, seeing this, intentionally fell into the trap to reveal his identity to the man. After having caught him, the man angrily said, "You dare steal my liquor and have my fruits?" The monkey god then calmly replied, saying, "You have met me before and invited me to your house. I have fallen intentionally into your trap to let you know who I am." The man didn't believe him, and he said, "You have drank my Nihangmati. It is very precious to me, and for that I'm going to beat you up." After that, the monkey god was beaten up by all the villagers of the village of Angbang. They floated the dead body down the river of Kabeli, after which the Tamil River took the dead body to Baraha Chhatra, where it was caught in a fisherman's net. By then, the body had already been turned to a skeleton, and seeing this, the fisherman took the body to the Raja or king of Baraha Chhatra. After seeing the skeleton, the king fanned the skeleton with a fan made of gold and silver, and after doing so, the body came back alive. And seeing that the monkey god was alive, the king asked him, "Who are you and what happened to you?" The monkey god then proceeded to tell him the entire story about how he was beaten to death by the villagers. After hearing this, the Raja told the monkey god, "Go back to where you have been beaten to death, and if you are not given due respect, make the people of the Himbeya clan suffer from pain in their neck, their legs, and their back. Make them hunchback. And if they do not give you the first grains after harvest, then make them suffer." And after hearing those words, the monkey god went back to the village of Angbang and gave the people all sorts of suffering. And since then, the descendants of Hang Mukhang have since prayed to the monkey god whenever they have a pain in their back, a sore throat, pain in the leg, or if their back is being bent. And they always offer the first grains of harvest to the monkey god. And that's it. It's a very short story.
Wow, that was really nice story. It showed how the culture of the Limbu society, and I really like the story. I would like to ask if the audience would like to say something or give opinions about this story.
Yes, thank you very much, Anyanya. That was a lovely story. I really enjoy hearing stories from particular places. Stories linked to places, I think, are very important. Thank you.
Oh, we have some more comments in the chat.
Ryan.
Yes. So should we continue?
Yeah, I think we should.
I believe we should continue. Okay. So I believe next up is Chongi. Chongi with her story, The Slaughterer and the Yogi.
Can I just ask a question a moment? Sorry.
Yeah.
Your teacher, Sika, has just pointed out that in the chat that Anyana's story says it's from her ethnicity.
Yes.
So can I ask Anyana to tell us about that?
So my name, since my name is Ananya Yaktuma, the surname Yaktuma comes from the Limbu community, and they mainly reside in the eastern half of Nepal. Actually, this story actually means a lot to me as well, because I myself am a member of the Hembeya clan. So this story holds a special place in my family, and it's been passed down that way.
So who did you learn the story from, Ananya?
I learned it from my grandparents, actually.
From your grandparents, how wonderful. So you've learned it from your grandparent, and now you're telling it to us in English. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So I believe we should move on. Like I said, Chongi and her story. Yeah.
Good everyone. So the Tashidele is a traditional word in Tibetan, which means also namaste, which is also greeting, which is also done in Nepal, because our Nepal has different diversity and different languages that we use. So Nepali is one of the most common languages that people understand in Nepal. So we use Nepali pretty often. So my story is about a slaughterer and a yogi. So once upon a time, far in a far, far away land, there used to live a slaughterer who spent all his life killing different animals and sell them for his living. While on the other hand, there lived a yogi. The yogi spent all his life in the Himalayas and in the forest meditating in the name of Dharma. So one day, the slaughterer's knife went missing, which was pretty strange. But later, he found out the one who hid his knife was none other than a sheep. It was pretty strange for him. A sheep? How did the sheep find his knife and hid it? He looked closely at the sheep. The sheep was crying. He felt bad for the sheep, and he said to himself, "Oh dear, the sheep knows that he's going to die today. He does not want to die, he wants to live, like me, and so do I." But the slaughterer felt remorse for the sheep. So with that thought, he let him live. And then he went far, far away from that place and ended up being at the edge of a cliff. There he stood for a while and vowed, "I shall go to hell. I shall take all my sins with me and bear all the consequences of what I've done in my life. And then I shall purify myself, and only after that I shall be born again." And with that thought, he jumped off the cliff. When he opened his eyes, he was not in hell. He was surprised. He became enlightened and had become Buddha. And sudden realization came in his head that he had special powers. It was a power that none other people had ever seen. And those powers had turned him into Buddha. So at that moment, the yogi saw that as well. And the yogi said, "If that slaughterer can turn into Buddha, then so can I. I have spent all my life meditating so that I can be Buddha as well." And with that, the yogi jumped off the cliff. But sadly, the yogi did not survive and he died.
That's it. Oh, okay.
Wow. So
It's
the
really
remorseful
unexpected.
slaughterer could find himself in a kind of nirvana, while the yogi was proud and ended up dashed on the rocks. Is that right? You told that story so beautifully, Chiongi. Did you say that story was from Tibetan heritage?
Yes, yes.
Why did you choose to tell that story?
Since my family is like mixed. My mom is half Tibetan and half Sherpa. So basically it's also a very traditional story, and this story is like mostly not heard by many people. So it's a very beautiful folklore of Tibetan culture, which is rarely heard by the people around the world. So I want to share this story with everyone so that they can know the story.
Thank you. You have just done that. It was so powerfully told.
Absolutely, Chongi. Thank you very much for sharing it. It's a fantastic story. And as David said, you told it beautifully. Thank you.
So is everyone done commenting? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Let's
I'm
move
thinking
on.
what struck me about the story was such a universal theme, and how that theme appears in different cultures, in different places all around the world. So thank you for bringing us one more, and something again that we need to be reminded of.
Yes. So
Yes,
let's.
John, I just want to add to that what you reminded me of. You're right. It's told many ways and places, but this is a wonderfully a unique way of we do not know who's worthy. We cannot make judgments, and this is a story that put that forth very well. Thank you.
Yes. Let's move on then. Our next storyteller is Ayusha, and her story is The Golden Hair.
Thank you, Ran. Hello, everybody. My name is Ayusha, and today I will be telling you a story about a princess with the golden hair. So, once upon a time, in a far, far away land, there lived a beautiful princess, and she was loved by her citizens, her parents, her younger brothers, her older brothers, basically everyone. And she also had long, beautiful golden hair. And her parents were obsessed with her hair. They would count each strand of hair every night before going to bed. And they were so obsessed with her hair that they even forbade her forever untying her hair because they feared that she might lose a strand of hair somewhere and it would get lost. Uh, and one day, on a very hot summer day, the princess decided that she wanted to take a bath in the river. And she untied her hair, took a bath in the river, and while she was taking a bath, uh, once she lost one single strand of hair in the river. And at first she thought that it wouldn't be such a big deal because it was just one strand of hair and it was not that uh, it wouldn't make a lot of difference. And later that night, when her parents started counting her hair as usual, they found that there was one less strand of hair than usual. And at first, they thought that maybe they made a mistake. And then they started counting again, and then still one less strand of hair than usual. They counted again and again until they accepted the fact that the princess had gone against her parents and she had untied her hair. And the princess confessed that she had taken a bath in the river and that she thought that losing just one strand of hair wouldn't be such a big deal. And the parents were furious, but they couldn't do much about it. Instead, they decided that they would declare that whoever would find that strand of hair would get to marry the princess. And everyone in the kingdom started to search everywhere for that strand of hair. And coincidentally, a few days later, her own elder brother found the strand of hair. And back in the day, it was not uncommon for royalty to marry each other in order to keep the bloodline pure. But the princess was disgusted by the fact that she would have to marry her own elder brother. And so she decided that she would run away to the forest. And she did. And she found the tallest tree that she could find. And then she climbed that tree and then stayed there. And as soon as the parents found out that the princesses ran away, the princess's father, he came and then he begged for his daughter to come down. He said that he bribed her basically. He said that I will bring you the most finest silk that I can find. I will bring you the shiniest jewels. I'll bring you the tastiest sweets that I can find. Just come down. But she didn't. And the father gave up and he left. And then similarly, everyone from her family came. They tried to convince her, but she wasn't convinced and they gave up and left. And at the end, the princess's youngest brother came, and then instead of convincing her to come down, he asked if he could go up with her. And the princess agreed, and she let him climb. She let him climb the tree using her hair. And while they were at the top, the princess gave him a little bit of rice to eat. And she told him that he must not drop even one single grain of rice on the ground. But the prince was young and a messy eater, so he dropped a few grains on the ground, and the grains turned into cows and goats. But now the princess couldn't return back to the kingdom because that would mean that she would have to marry her elder brother. So the princess and the young prince decided that they would stay in the forest. They built a small hut, and the princess covered her face with soot so that nobody would recognize her. And while the princess would stay in the hut, she would cook, she would clean, and the prince would go outside and graze the cattle. And the prince, despite of the princess's warning, the prince still boasted about his sister's beauty. He used to go around telling people that my sister is the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. If the princesses from other kingdom would see how beautiful she was, they would be green with envy. And one day, a yogi had been traveling and he heard the prince boasting about his elder sister, and he was interested. And he went to the forest and he found the hut. And as soon as he saw the young princess, he fell in love with her, and he decided that he wanted to make her his bride, and he kidnapped her. And when the young prince came back later that evening, he couldn't find his sister anywhere, and it was getting dark. And usually his sister would protect him from all the monsters in the forest that would lurk during the night. But since there was no one, he became a target. And as expected, the monsters came that night, and when they tried to take away the young prince, a cow said that you can take away the boy if you can count every hair on my body. And the monster started to count the hair on the body, and every time the monster would even get close to counting all the hairs, the cow would move or shift in some way so that the monster would lose count, and then the monster would have to start all over again. And eventually the monster just gave up, and he said, like, you can keep the boy. I'm frustrated. I cannot keep doing this over and over again. And then the monster left. The next morning, the prince decided to go and find his sister because he cannot live under the protection of the cow forever. And after a very long journey, he found his sister. He found the yogi's castle, and he found his sister, and the princess immediately said that they need to leave while the yogi was gone. And so the princess packed a few things. She packed a mirror, she packed a comb, and she packed a small sack of rice. And as soon as they started running, the yogi saw them, and the yogi started to chase them. And in order to slow down the yogi, the princess had the items that the princesses had packed before. She threw them one by one. First, she threw the comb. The comb turned into a bamboo forest that the yogi had to cross. And the second, she threw the mirror, and it turned into a lake. And then lastly, she threw the sack of rice, the small sack of rice that she had, and then she threw it, and it turned into a small mountain that the yogi had to cross. and but the yogi still managed to cross all the obstacles that the princess had created, and eventually the princess ran out of all the items that she had packed. And so uh, as a last effort, the princess decided to pray while running. She prayed that whoever is listening to my prayers, please save us from this evil man. I've tried my best, and praying is my only option now. And it is believed that in that moment, a bright flash appeared, and it is believed that the princess with the golden hair, she turned into the sun, and the young prince who was chasing after the sister became the moon. Just like how, and just like how the moon chases the sun, the prince would forever chase his sister. Thank you.
Aisha, I think you should check the chat.
Ayusha,
Yeah.
when I heard you tell that story before, I commented to you before how much I love this story. Do you call this story Sunkeshari Rani?
I think yes, the original title is Sunki Sri Rani, but in order
Because
to make it easier.
Yes, because I tell that story as well, and I learned it from your teacher, Sika Gurung, who's in the room, and we've told it together. And Sika learned her version of that story from her grandmother. Where did you learn your version of that story from?
I've learned a similar version from my grandparents as well. The version that I just told, I found it in like a research paper.
So you've heard it and you've read it, and you've put those two
Yes.
versions together.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what great storytellers do. You find the story in different sources, and then you find your own way of telling it, and you told it fantastically well.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and David, like many stories in Nepal, they have different versions in different ethnicities. Like Ayusha is Magar. She is a Mongolian. She is a Mongolian, and my grandmother is Aryan. So she told me that Chetri version of Sunkeshri Rani, and now Ayusha says that her grandmother told it, and this belongs to her, ethnicity. So yeah, we have one story told by different ethnicities. Do you remember, David, one of the students sending you the story of Don Choleja?
Yes.
I think Lumana somebody sent you, right? So that story also is told by different ethnicities in their own ways. So it's like that.
Yes, I'm very fortunate because lots of the students, not this group, but from previous years, have sent me stories that they've told, that they've learned from their families. And I've had the opportunity to read and then retell some of those stories. It's a great treasure for me. Thank you so much, Sika.
Now that I think that, okay.
Sorry. I was going to say thank you very much. And I love the way that your story is based in a country far, far away, because in England or the Great Britain, Scotland, we tell stories about princesses in countries far, far away. But the funny thing is that for us, Nepal is this magical kingdom that is far, far away. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. I am really happy that you commented. Now I would like to continue this program and like to call the next storyteller, Divya Shri, who is going to tell a story called The Sparrow's Bean.
Namaste everyone. First, I hope you guys can hear me. For some reason my virtual background does not work, so I'd like to say sorry. And I'd also like to thank everyone here for giving me this platform and this opportunity. My story is really short since I'm new to the storytelling event and I'm a bit nervous, so I hope you enjoy. The Sparrow's Lost Bean. Once upon a time there was a sparrow who was very neat and clean.
Its nest was spotless and it was always washed up before eating. One morning, the sparrow found a bean and was overjoyed that it didn't have to search the neighborhood for food. As it was its habit, it went down to the river to wash up after putting the bean away safely on the bridge. When the sparrow returned expecting to eat a fine breakfast, alas, the bean was nowhere to be found. As it was looking everywhere for its food, it saw a carpenter walking up the bridge. The sparrow went up to the carpenter and said, "I have lost my bean. Please help me find it." "Who's going to listen to you?" said the carpenter, and continued on his way. Just then the sparrow saw a soldier walking up the bridge. It pleaded with him to help find the bean, but the soldier too was uncooperative. "Who's going to help a sparrow?" he said, and walked away. Then a captain came up the bridge, but he wouldn't help the sparrow either, and then a minister, but no help from him too. He just laughed and kept walking. The hungry sparrow became desperate. Then the king came riding on an elephant. The sparrow was certain that it would get justice from the most powerful person in the country, but the king pretended not to hear the sparrow's pleas and said nothing. As the sparrow sat there dejected, an ant came up and asked, "What's the matter? Didn't you see the king pass by?" The sparrow then told the ant how everybody from the carpenter to the king had ignored its appeals to help it find the lost bean. "Don't worry," said the ant, "we will find the bean somehow." The ant then crawled up to the elephant's ear and said, "Tell the king to find the sparrow's bean or I will go inside your ear and bite you." The terrified elephant turned to the king and said, "You better help the sparrow, O king, or I will throw you off my back." The king was startled. He immediately summoned the minister and ordered, "Help the sparrow or you are fired." The minister called the captain right away and said, "Do whatever the sparrow says or you are in trouble." The captain then called the soldier and gave him explicit orders. The soldier in turn found the carpenter and told him, "Find the sparrow's bean or I will hang you from this bridge itself." The carpenter searched for a day and a half and finally found the lost bean, and the sparrow had a satisfying breakfast that day. Thank you.
Wow, that was a really nice story. A really unique one where the
Yeah, it was
ant
really funny. I mean, all of that trouble just for a bean.
Yeah, even
You could have just given the sparrow a new bean.
yeah, even most harmless living creatures can cause big problems if they want to. It's really terrifying.
I love catalogue stories, and I tell them. But I would love to tell that story if I have your permission.
Thank you.
So is that a yes?
Oh yeah. It's a yes from my side. It's not my story. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a note of the sequence.
Now I think that.
Oh, sorry. I think
it's okay. It's okay. I think it's my problem. I'm nervous, so
this keeps on happening for some reason.
Yeah, it's a virtual storytelling problem that we are facing.
Okay, Suchi, Jackie wants to say something.
No, I just wanted to say that, Rashri, I don't think you needed to be nervous at all. You told it beautifully. And you can see lots of us would like to tell that story. It was a wonderful tale. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I would just like to say to Ryan and Suchit, you are doing a great job of hosting this event. It's really entertaining and really well organized. So please continue doing your great hosting role.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I think the comments and the opinions have stopped. So now let's move on to the next storyteller, who is Ariha, who is going to tell us the story of a Gone Maybe Gone, called Gone Maybe Gone. Ariha?
Yes. Namaste, everybody. The story I'm about to tell you guys is one of my own. I've written it myself, and it is about a girl in a village in Tarai. So yeah, the title of my story is Gone May Be Gone, and it goes as there lived a girl named Shia in the mid-east of Tarai in Nepal. Her house was made of mud, had no windows, and had a small fireplace to cook food in the corner. Her family owned 2 cows who were Shia's only friend. One day, around 12 o'clock in the noon, Shia was feeding her cows. Suddenly, she heard some noise, as if someone was crying. She looked around, couldn't see anybody. She went back to picking a pile of grass and feeding it to the cows. She fed and fed and fed and fed. Again, after a while, she heard someone crying. She started getting goosebumps. She walked towards the bush looking for someone. While she was going, her mom called her from the back. Shia, come back and do the chores, she shouted. Wait, I'm coming, shouted Shia as well. She kept looking around and around. She gave up. She had reached a tree. On her way back, she stepped on something. She looked down. She kept staring. She was very devastated. Almost about to shout, she saw a tiny baby. The baby started crying, probably because she stepped on him. She looked around, not knowing what to do. She quickly lifted the baby, tried to shut him up, but couldn't. She ran towards the paddy field and kept him in the ground. She ran away from there as fast as she could. She ran and ran and ran and ran. She was shivering. She reached home, pretended as if nothing had happened, and went to the kitchen. Her mother from the corner started shouting, Where on earth were you? You think I have 4 hands? Who's going to clean everything? Be responsible. Stop roaming around like donkeys everywhere, her mom shouted. Wish I had a son, she even whispered. Shia ignored everything her mother was saying. She was already so devastated, she couldn't stop thinking about that baby. She kept thinking and thinking and thinking all day. She couldn't sleep. The day after, she peeked through her door, staring at the paddy field, wondering if the baby is still there. She kept staring, looking here and there, her eyes glazed towards the exact same tree where she found the baby. She saw a man peeking towards the paddy field as well. He had a plastic bag in his hand. Shia couldn't see what was in it. The man quickly caught her looking at him. He ran towards the paddy field, left the bag there. Strange, isn't it? The baby started crying. Shia felt a bit of relief when she heard the crying, knowing that the baby was still alive. She waited for him to leave. After he left, she ran to the baby. She hurried and tore the plastic bag. There was milk in it. She spilled the milk all over her dress. Ugh, she muttered. The baby kept crying. She then noticed the man was still behind the tree, staring. She was so horrified she started crying. The man walked towards Shia's house. Knocked, her father answered. They talked for a while, and the man left. Shia ran to her home. She jumped in her father's lap and asked him, Papa, who was he? Asked Shia. Him? He's your uncle. You've met him before, said her father. Wait, what? No, I haven't, replied Shia. You were too young back then. Now go do your chores, ordered her father. Shia went outside, ignoring her father. It felt wrong, very wrong to leave that baby outside. Also, how on earth is that creepy head my uncle? Ugh, she said to herself. She wanted an excuse to just go back and take the baby somewhere. She couldn't hold herself. She went to the cow shed, collected milk from the cow, and went to the paddy field. The baby was still there. Dead or alive, she didn't know. She lifted the baby, opened his mouth, and fed milk to him from a bottle. She put a finger under the baby's nose. Luckily, the baby was still alive, was breathing. She felt a slight jolt of happiness. It took her an hour to feed the baby. She knew her mom was going to be mad if she didn't come home, but she didn't care. Shia didn't want to keep the baby out in the field, so she decided to keep him in the cowshed for one night, praying that her parents wouldn't find out. She lifted him and took him to the cowshed, kept him in her lap, and waited for him to sleep. He slept. She lifted him down, went back to sleep. She was happy. She thought she would make a small 1 feet mud house for him the next day, and she did. She collected mud, sand, and water, grinded, and made a tiny house for him. She gave him milk, water, clothes, comfort, and everything. She took him near the river and gave him a good bath. She started spending more and more time with him. She used to come and go home secretly so that her parents wouldn't find out. She would try to sleep with the baby, and just like that, the weeks passed. They were so close. He started growing teeth. She was so excited she made mashed potatoes for him and tried to feed him. She would try to make clothes for him on her own and would sew it for him as well. She used to go to him, talk to him whenever she felt down. He became her comfort blanket. Being with her made her so happy. She sometimes wondered about that creepy man, her uncle. Would he come back? She said to herself. Then, after weeks, she saw a man going to her home. He was the exact same man, the same creepy head. She saw she was in the baby's mud house at the time. She lifted the baby and started crying. The man seemed happy. Again, he talked for a while with her father and left. She has stopped crying. A part of her wanted to adopt that baby, but she knew her parents would never agree. She went to her father and asked, "Why was he here again?" "For business," her father replied. "What business?" Shia asked curiously. "That's none of your business," replied her father. "Is he coming tomorrow?" "Yes, he is. We're going to office together," said her father. As if Shia didn't know that there are no offices in the village. Shia decided to follow them tomorrow wherever they're going. She was very nervous, but at the same time she was very mad because her father lied to her. She went back. The baby, the baby she was with the baby and she spent her whole day with him. After the baby slept, she went back to her house and went to sleep. She slept. Around 1 a.m., someone knocked in the door. Someone kept knocking and knocking. Shia woke up. She was half asleep. Her dad answered the door. Shia's eyes opened. She saw the same creepy dude. Him and her dad were whispering something. They went outside. They went outside the door. Shia hopped out of her bed and peeked through the door. She saw them getting on a motorbike and leaving. After they left, Shia took her mother's bicycle and followed them from a distance. They couldn't see her. She rode and rode and rode and rode. They finally reached a tunnel. Shia had never seen such a tunnel in her village. They went inside. Shia followed them. That place was very stinky. After going a bit far inside the tunnel, there were many people in there. Shia got scared. She tried her best not to cry, not to shout. Some were counting money, some were filling bags with white powder in it. Shia couldn't figure out any of it. There was a cloth lying down. Shia grabbed it and wore it around her face like hijab. She went in. She went inside a door. She was shocked. There were babies in it. Those people were doing something with the babies, things that Shia shouldn't see. She almost screamed. She was so disgusted. Some babies had their eyes taken off, some removed their tongue, and some were kept in trucks. She couldn't see it. She was about to puke. Why were my father and uncle involved in this? Ugh, she said to herself. Slowly, she thought, as a 12-year-old, that things started making sense. She thought that they were going to do the exact same thing to the baby. Maybe that thing in that plastic bag wasn't milk at all. It was something else. Maybe they were trying to sell the baby. She thought. She ran away from there, went back to her home, took the baby and her cycle, rode and rode. They reached a bus stand. They went inside. They pretended as if they were someone's daughters or children. From that day, her parents never saw her again. Thank you.
Wow, that was really nice story. And this story is like different from other stories because it's from a Terai region, I think. Isn't it, Ariha?
Yes, it
Like,
is.
yeah, it's for Terai region, so it's different. And I like this part of story where it shows that there are two sides of the society, where one side is dark and cruel, while other side is light and filled with kindness. I really like the part of that story, and now I'd like to ask if audience has something to say or comment about something.
I'd
I
like
thought it
to
was
ask.
I thought
Sorry,
it was a
sorry.
really powerful story. And I particularly like how you told it. You got a rhythm in there. So when you said in the dialogue, "What's your business? None of your business." So just brought. I think, and it's when you're telling just those short lines that brings everyone's attention back, because especially with a long and complex story like that, it was incredibly well told and a fantastic story, an amazing original story.
Thank you, Ariha, for that story. Can I ask about the theme of the story, Ariha? The story seems to be about child trafficking. Why did you choose this theme?
It was supposed to be mystery, but yes, it's violent as well. It's one of my stories.
Thank you.
Yes, but I like to make something clear. The Terai region is basically it's like a desert region in Nepal. It's like located in the region is like located at the lower part of Nepal, at the southern part, and it shares an open border with India. And then basically, it's very desert-like, the Tarai region.
Thank you.
Yes.
Will anyone like to comment more?
Thank you. Just to say thank you. If that's your first time telling stories, then that's very impressive, young lady, and we look forward to hearing more of your storytelling. And it was a very difficult topic to tell a story about, and you did it extremely well. So well done.
If everyone's like done with commenting, then now we have come to the almost to the end of the story, like the program. And I would like to thank everyone, and I got a lot of experience from this program and other programs that I have went to, and that's why I would like to thank the World Storytelling Cafe, which gave us such a big opportunity and such a big platform for me and Ryan and other storytellers to tell about to tell the stories and perform. I'd also like to thank David sir and John sir, who gave us this opportunity by letting us connect with the World Storytelling Cafe. I think I'm having unstable internet, so please bear it with me if you can't understand something.
We can hear you clearly, Suchit.
Oops. Okay. So that's why I would like to thank everyone, and of course I would also like to thank Yulan School and Shikha ma'am, who gave us this exposure to such a nice platform, which I would have never got to experience. And that's why I would like to thank everyone, including the audience who have been so active and sharing their opinions. I would really like to thank everyone in the end.
Thank you so much, Suchit. And can I remind everyone in the room that this wonderful opportunity we've had of listening to your stories, and stories that are very important to you, because some of them you created, some of them you've learned from your family, many from your own traditions, mythology and religions. You've brought these stories to the world, and this recording is coming out live, but it's also a recording that people will be able to go back and listen to. So can I encourage everybody who's here and listening to share this recording? Share this recording in your social media to give more people this wonderful opportunity to hear the stories told by young people from different ethnicities, from different parts of Nepal, from Ulan School. And thank you so much to both of you, to your teacher, Sika Gurung. It's a fantastic opportunity for all of us.
And thank you, David, for bringing these wonderful tellers to us and introducing them. And for me, it was part of the joy of curating the World Storytelling Cafe has been having stories from so many diverse cultures. And today we had this enormous diversity of Nepal brought that we don't often think about, because we think of Nepal as a sort of homogenous sort of country, and just to be educated. I mean, I've got myself I've had a wonderful education today, because of there were cultures I didn't even know about. There's a million cultures in this world we don't know about, and I learned about a few more today. So thank you all.
Go back again.
Oh yes, please come back. And if any of you are up at the ridiculous late night, for you in Nepal, every Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock GMT, which is probably something like midnight in Nepal. We have young tellers from around the world, and you don't need, you can just turn up and tell. You just go live onto the cafe, as you did today, pressing the gold join story button on Tuesdays, any Tuesday. Well, yeah, I think any Tuesday. I don't think we're missing any. And you're all welcome. Just stay up. Just stay up. Just give yourselves a late night. Stay up. Jackie occasionally, David, I know, join open mics in America at the moment, so they're staying up to 1 or 2 in the morning so they can join. So please join us, and any of the adults that are listening. Of course, every 2 weeks we have a worldwide story round. But for now, thank you very, very much. It's been an amazing night, and I think a round of applause from everyone for these wonderful young tellers.
Just a reminder, everybody, and John, that on Monday we have teachers from all around the world sharing stories, storytelling teachers that I've been working with and playing storytelling with over the last months are going to come together and tell stories with us, everybody, at 6 p.m. UK time this coming Monday, so the day after tomorrow.
Yes, and thank you for reminding me of that, David, as it's my program. It's very remiss of me to forget. But,
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. And one more round of applause.
David, I did that again.
I would like to add something to the chat, because this has been a wonderful experience, because I've heard the stories are like old friends in a different form that I hadn't known, and stories I hadn't heard before. And for those who would like to have a chance to maybe look up, because not all stories are in the oral tradition, of course, and they've been put into books. So I have a small list of English folktale collections from Nepal, and I would like to put that into the chat. If that's
yes, please.
Yeah. So one of them, unfortunately, I could not put into the chat because it was put out by UNESCO. They didn't give an author or any place where you can find it, but there you go, you know, sometimes that's, anyways, I will do that. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who brings these stories alive. By hearing them, I feel like I'm a little part of the world is now in my living room. Thank you.
Norman, because the chat will disappear at the end of the program, would you like to put your list onto the World Storytelling Cafe community Facebook page, and then we can all go and see that list whenever we want?
Okay, then I will do that. I put it on a Word document so I can just pick it up.
Or maybe put it both places.
Yeah, I've just did that, and you can save the chat.
Okay.
As well, I know it'll.
I find that difficult.
Is it? Have you already put it up there, Norman?
Yes. I wanted to ask permission first.
Well, well, you've got permission. It hasn't arrived yet.
It hasn't arrived in the chat yet.
Oh, I put it out to everyone, and it's there for me.
Ah.
While we're looking, David was asking if you could repeat what you said. I think about the Monday storytelling, maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly, yes, David. On Monday, so that's the day after tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK time, we've got storytelling teachers from around the world who are going to be sharing stories. We've got teachers from Gaza, teachers from so many. I've forgotten all the countries that teachers are coming from. Are you telling a story, Sarah? I can't remember. You said you may be. No, you can't come, can you? Wow. But I think Jackie's going to tell a story from Scotland, or Jackie's from Scotland. I don't know if she's going to tell a Scottish story. And I think we've got stories from probably from different parts of Europe, Off the top of my head, I don't remember all of the wonderful sources, but it's all going to be shared on Monday. So be here at 6 o'clock.
Well, thank you. No, Norman's put that list up now, but meanwhile, thank you very much for coming, and amazing, and we hope to see you all again sometime. And I'm sure the cafe will be going at least till March in its current state. So then you're welcome to have another some other Saturday in the new year, because we'd love to see you all again.
So how do we say goodbye in Nepali?
Tata.
Say it again.
Tata.
Tata. Tata.
Tata. Tata. Tata. Tata. Tata. And thank you, Ali, for running the boat. Thank you for being our technician today.
Yeah,
you've been brilliant as always.
Solstice.
Thank you for having us once again. Good night.
Good
night.
Bye.
Thank you. Tada.
Good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. We are ne. We la.
Thank you, Ali.